I'm Mercedes Stevenson, and this is the West Block: Politics, Perspectives, and Players. It's Sunday, February 7th. I'm Mercedes Stevenson, and this is the West Block. Canada's former top soldier, General Jonathan Vance, is under investigation by military police and the Department of National Defence after Global News revealed allegations of sexual misconduct. Vance is accused of having had an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate officer while under his direct command in 2006 and during his time as Chief of the Defence Staff. Vance is also accused of sending an email making a sexual advance on a 25-year-old corporal. Speaking to Global News, Vance denied any inappropriate behaviour. Global News also reported the Minister of National Defence was made aware of concerns about Vance in 2018. Minister Harjit Sajjan joins us now to discuss this. This is difficult news for many in the military. The allegations that have come forward are very serious against General Vance. I'm also aware that you had heard about this from the Ombudsman back in 2018. So I just wanted to get some clarity on what exactly you learned at that time, and if that was the first time that you heard about concerns of the conduct of General Vance.
Well, Mercedes, a lot of the, first of all, you're talking about the shock that I think all of us had in the last week with the allegations that have been brought forward. I can only imagine the shock and the confidence that has been broken with all the women who are serving in the Canadian Armed Forces. And for the women that felt they could not come forward, this is probably the most concerning thing for me, and something that we have to fix immediately. When it comes to any other allegations, one thing I can tell you that anything that was brought to me was immediately reported to the appropriate authorities so that any type of investigation could be conducted. But what I can tell you is everything that I've heard, the allegations that have come forward, has been new and shocking to me as well.
So what exactly did the Ombudsman tell you in 2018 that you felt was concerning enough that you had your Chief of Staff pass that on to Privy Council office?
Well, Mercedes, I can't regrettably breach that confidence, because more importantly, we have to protect the integrity of the investigation, especially what's before us now. Finally, these women have come forward, and last thing I want to do is undermine that trust. I want to make sure that the allegations can be properly investigated. And I can't, unfortunately, talk about the conversation because the discussions between the Ombudsman and the Minister of National Defence is confidential. But as I stated, I can assure you that anything that was forwarded was immediately passed on to the appropriate authorities.
Minister, with all due respect, the women I've spoken to, this is part of what they highlight, that they felt that people at high levels had been warned and that nothing ever happened. Therefore, they were afraid to come forward because they feared, and some of them I can tell you still fear, the potential for punishment from within the institution, not officially so much as also in unsanctioned ways. When you heard this, I understand passing it on to the appropriate investigative authority, who, by the way, says they had no information to do anything with this. But did you at any point actually tell the Prime Minister or tell Cabinet or tell the Prime Minister's senior staff about these concerns?
Well, first of all, everything was thoroughly followed up. And that the point that you raised, that women had brought this forward, that's actually very concerning to me. These are the things that we absolutely need to fix. This is the things that we were trying to fix from day one. Our government has been putting this as a top priority, something that we worked on. So this is something that is very disturbing to me. And that's why we're going to be launching an independent and very thorough investigation separate from the chain of command so that we can get the answers. And one thing I can assure you, it will be thorough, it will be deep. And also, we're going to be looking at who is complicit throughout any of these allegations as well.
Well, Minister, I just want to go back there, though, to ask again, did you at any point raise this with Prime Minister Trudeau or any of his senior staff or fellow members of Cabinet?
Mercedes, one thing I can assure you is that any type of information has been was brought to the appropriate authorities for the appropriate process, and it was followed up thoroughly on this. And for the sake of protecting the integrity of the current investigation, I can't comment on anything further on this. we owe it to the survivors who have come forward to making sure that we protect the integrity of the investigation.
So that's not a yes or a no to whether or not the Prime Minister and Cabinet were aware of this?
As I stated, we have to. I know we want answers, Mercedes. I want answers, especially all the women in the Canadian Armed Forces who deserve the answers on this and the changes that are needed, and for Canadians. But it's the independent investigation that will determine this, and also if these allegations lead to a court, will we get the answers? But a last thing that I want to do here is to be able to undermine the investigation and undermine any potential justice that may come from these allegations.
Do you wish, in retrospect, that you'd done more when you heard some of these allegations coming from the Ombudsman?
One thing I can assure you, Mercedes, this has been a top priority, making sure that we create a safe environment. Now, as a man, I can never say that I understand what a woman will go through in these type of cases. But one thing I can assure you that I always have been a champion for this. As a former police officer, having investigated things like this, that we will do everything in our power to making sure that we can make those changes. And in retrospect, that you asking, I can assure you that when any allegations are brought forward, that it was aggressively and very quickly and timely put forward to the authorities, followed up appropriately, and that any further actions, if there were, we would have taken it. But one thing I can assure you, that everything in our power was always done when something was brought forward. This is something that our government has been seized with. This is something that I have been seized with.
You mentioned that independent investigation. What can you tell us about that? We know there's a military police investigation by the Canadian Forces National Investigative Service, but there's also a separate one. Is that being run by the department? Is it external? What does that look like?
Well, I can't obviously talk about the military police investigation because that is completely independent. But one thing I can assure you is the independent investigation, it has not been launched yet. I want to get the thorough advice on this before we do it so that we can get this right. But it will be independent from the military so that it is thorough. I can also assure you it will be very deep. We will be looking at who was complicit throughout this ordeal, and plus to making sure that we get the appropriate recommendations moving forward to make the necessary changes so that finally that women can feel confident that there will not be retribution if they come forward. These are things that are extremely disturbing to me, and the changes that we need to make. And so we haven't made the final decision just yet. I'm getting the appropriate advice, but it will be independent from the military.
Minister, thank you very much for joining us on this topic. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mercedes.